King Nebuchadnezzar made a gold statue 90 feet high and, 9 feet wide. He set it up on the plain of Dura in the province of Babylon. King Nebuchadnezzar sent word to assemble the satraps, prefects, the governors, and advisors, treasuries, judges, magistrates, and all the rulers of the province to attend the dedication of the statue King Nebuchadnezzar had set up. So the satraps, prefects, governments, and advisors, treasurers, judges, and magistrates, and all the rulers of the province assembled for the dedication of the statue the king had set up. Then they stood before the statue Nebuchadnezzar had set up. A herald loudly proclaimed, "People of every nation and of every language, you are commanded when you hear the sound of the horn, flute, certain lyre and harp, drum, and every kind of music, you are to fall down and worship the gold image statue that the king Nebuchadnezzar has set up. But whoever does not fall down and worship will immediately be thrown into the furnace of blazing fire." Therefore, when all the people heard the sound of the horn, flute, lyre, and harp, and every kind of music, people of every nation and language fell down and worshipped the gold statue the king Nebuchadnezzar had set up. The furnace of blazing fire. Some Charles took this occasion to come forward and malice accused the Jews. They said to King Nebuchadnezzar, "May the king live forever. You as king have issued a decree that everyone who hears the sound of the horn, flute, lyre, harp, drum, and every kind of music must fall down and worship the gold statue. Whoever does not fall down and worship will be thrown into the furnace of the blazing fire. Therefore are some Jews you have appointed to manage the province of Babylon, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. These men have ignored you, the king. They do not serve your gods or worship the gold statue you have set up." Then, in the fury and rage, Nebuchadnezzar gave orders to bring Shadrach, and Abednego. So these men were brought before the king Nebuchadnezzar, asked them, "Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, is it true that you are serve my gods or worship the gold statue I have set up? Now if you refuse when you hear the sound of the flute, lyre, harp, and drum, and every kind of music, fall down and worship the statue I made. But if you Don't worship it. You will be immediately be thrown into the furnace of blazing fire. And who is the God who can rescue you from my power? Shemach, and Abednego replied to the king, Nebuchadnezzar, we don't need to give an answer to this question. If the God we serve exists, then he can rescue us from the furnace of the blazing fire, and he can rescue us from the power of you, the king. But even if he does not rescue us, we want you as king to know that we will not serve your gods or worship the gold statue you set up. Then Nebuchadnezzar was filled with rage, and the expression on his face changed towards the Shemach, Meshach, and Abednego. He gave orders to heat the furnace 7 times more than was custom, and he commanded some of the strongest soldiers in his army to tie up Shemach, Meshach, and Abednego and throw them into the furnace of blazing fire. So these men in their trousers, robes, head coverings, and other clothes were tied up and thrown into the furnace of blazing fire. Since the king commanded was so urgent and the furnace extremely hot, the raging flames killed those men who carried Shemach, Meshach, and Abednego up, and those 3 men, Shemach, and Abednego, bound into the furnace of the blazing fire. Delivered from the fire, the king Nebuchadnezzar jumped up in alarm. He said to his advisors, didn't we throw the 3 men into the fire? Yes, of course, your majesty, they replied to the king. He exclaimed, look, I see 4 men not tied up walking around in the fire unharmed, and the 4th man looks like the son of the gods. Nebuchadnezzar then approached the door of the furnace of the blazing fire and called, Shemach, Meshach, and Abednego, you servants of the Most High God, come out. So Shemach, Meshach, and Abednego came out of the fire. When the Samsat predicted government and the king's advisors gathered around, they saw that the fire had no effect on the bodies of those men. Not a hair on their heads were singed, and their robes were unaffected, and there was no smell of fire on them. Nebuchadnezzar exclaimed, praise to the God of Shemach, Meshach, and Abednego. He sent his angels and rescued his servants who trusted in him. They they violated the king's command and and risked their lives rather than to serve or worship any god except their own God. Therefore, I issue a decree that anyone or any people, nation, or language who says anything offensive against the God of Shemach, Meshach, and Abednego will be torn limb from limb, and his house made a garbage dump, for there is no other gods who is able to deliver like this. Then the king rewards Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego on the province of Babylon.